have 666 sober days. So what does that mean for me? Well, it means I'm sober. If you don't know me that well, or if you didn't know, I struggled with alcohol. For me, if alcohol was in the picture, everything was in the picture, especially cocaine. Cocaine. Fucking, who am I? A boomer? I struggled with coke quite badly. Coke, MDMA, Molly. I wouldn't say mushrooms were like the more, I guess, natural substances, if you will. Like marijuana and mushrooms never really were my thing. I thought they were kind of stupid. I thought they were lame. I always liked the chemicals. I tried meth one time by accident. I had mistaken it for a gram of coke, and I fucking took that right up the dome, and immediate regrets. It was probably the worst half-gram line I've ever done in my life. It fucking sucked. Being 666 days sober, there's a few questions I get asked, like, what helps motivate me stay sober? I think a big driving factor is when I was in active addiction, I had prioritized my addictions over my family. So my grandmother had passed away a little bit after I graduated high school, and during high school I was starting to get fairly bad into my addiction. I would say like the after high school, like the door was kind of kicked wide open for me. So she passed away, and I didn't get to spend much time with her, and like I kind of fucking kicked myself in the ass over that. I'm not gonna lie, like it kind of fucking sucks. As well as my relationship with my mom, right? Like, so I didn't get to spend much time with my grandmother, and I regretted that. But my mom was always there, and my relationship would be a little rocky, but nothing bad by any means. Like I never got to the point where I was a piece of shit or anything in my relationship with my mother. But I always felt like I never really gave my mom or my grandparents the time that they deserved. So I don't let my addictions control me like that anymore. And I make sure that I'm able to prioritize them and spend time with them however possible, whenever possible. Things that also helped for me personally, I went to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting and an AA meeting, like literally one of each, and Crystal Meth Anonymous. But for me, I didn't like the programs. I think my biggest issue with going to the programs was the reinforcement of, hi, my name's Quentin, I am an addict, I am powerless against substances. I didn't like that, right? Like for me, I didn't understand the reinforcement of it. I understand the acknowledgement of I don't have power and I need to, in some shape, way, or form, find a way to rebuild myself or restructure my life in a way that is beneficial and healthy for me, to not have to feel the need to be around this stuff or to lean on alcohol for me. I did not like that part about those meetings. Hi, my name is Quentin and I am an alcoholic. It seemed very negative. And I actually found Russell Brand. I don't know if he's a British comedian. But his whole view on philosophy and life is just it's mesmerizing. Like I could listen to this dude talk for hours and hours. Like he is just something else. I came across his book on Instagram at one point, and this is years before I ever took my addiction seriously, or wanting to get sober, I should say. He had a book he had written, and it was called Recovery, if memory serves me correctly. I had the audiobook on my phone, and I really liked his for a more modern day approach, and I absolutely love it. And it was very easy for me to listen and understand and just get behind that, and I really liked it. Kind of just went off of his book and did what worked for me. So the first thing I did when I was getting sober is I cut ties with everyone. I isolated, I became antisocial, and I actually prefer that. I enjoy that independence, that leave me alone. It's comfort for me, and I truly do enjoy it. It is a very liberating feeling to know that I don't really depend on a lot of people or need to depend on people. there's a handful of people I have no problem reaching out to and telling them that I am having struggles, or, hey man, do you have a moment, just sit there and talk with me? Like, that's not a problem at all. I isolated and did my own thing, and by that I mean I stopped answering all my phone calls, or I stopped calling everyone, I stopped texting everyone, I stopped being the person who responded first. And then I seen who messaged me and who followed up. And what I did is, if they messaged me in regards to drinking or doing drugs, I just weeded them out. I had put enough space between me, and I was at that point comfortable enough to just ignore the messages. I had structured my life and gave myself a routine. At the time I was still scaffolding, so I'd wake up about 4 a.m. every day. I would take my dog, which I have a Siberian Husky. I would take her for a walk every morning before I'd go to work. We'd go for a walk, we'd come home. I wouldn't let her eat because I didn't need her making an accident or a mess in her kennel. So we'd go for a walk, come home, I'd have some breakfast, I'd let her outside before I left for work, put her in her kennel. I would come home after work, like a 10-hour shift, take her for another walk, and then after that walk I would work out because I have a home gym. Once I was done my home gym workout, if you will, I would take my dog for a quick little walk before bed, just so she could, I guess, stretch her legs and enjoy herself, go to sleep, and rinse and repeat. And Sundays were my meal prep days, so I had the same routine day in and day out, right? It was, I guess, accountability for me. It was something to just kind of help keep the time rolling, in a sense. I didn't give myself a lot of downtime. And on my meal prep days, those were the days where I'd sit on the couch with my dog, I'd watch anime, or I'd watch something that I enjoyed. I did that for months and months and months and months. And then when summer came around, I started doing things I want to do on the weekends or my days off. So if I wanted to go to a river, if I wanted to go to a lake, if I wanted to go camping, I did that. I didn't invite any of my friends. I would prioritize me. What did Quentin want to do? What does Quentin want to do? So I had a home gym. I had a very solid routine set in place for myself already, and that was great. So the next thing to do is start doing things that I wanted to do, whether anyone or no one at all wanted to come with me. And that's exactly what I did. If I wanted to go to a restaurant, if I was just craving food, I would take myself to a restaurant. I would treat myself to eating out. If I wanted to go to a movie, it didn't matter if it was like a comic book movie, like, you know, Marvel or DC, I would take myself there because fuck it, I deserve it, and I don't want to wait around for someone. I really hate going to the movies with someone and they talk during the movies. That shit fucking drives me up the wall. So I started doing stuff like that. Another thing that really helped in my sobriety was actually social media in a fucked up way. For how much I say I'm not a very social person, social media was a blessing. Reason being is I can engage and I can be social as I want, but I can do it within the comfort and safeness that I want to put up. Like, whatever boundaries I want to set, I can do that. And it's not like someone can directly get involved in my personal life or to me, or in some way be physically active or involved in my life if I don't want them to be. So I think social media was great. And also, in a way, I was saying earlier that I don't like the NA and AA meetings, but in an odd way, TikTok became that for me. Like, doing live streams. Live streams became a way for me to sit there and talk with people. If I was having a shitty day, I could just vent. They could fire it back at me, and it was relieving in a sense to know that I had that safety net, or that network, if you will, of people to communicate with. I would say giving back in a sense has also helped. There was a handful of times where I would just get phone calls from people I knew that I had worked with, and they would ask if I could just sit there and talk with them and give them my experiences, and talk, whether it was talking about my struggles or whatever it was. Hearing that, and just the little things like that, whether I would get a phone call and ask if I could do a presentation and talk about my struggles with addiction and share my story. Just giving back in the smallest way possible. A charity fund, helping someone simply by opening a door, taking the groceries out. If there was a little thing I could do, I just did it. And I found a lot of reward in it. In my own way, was working a program without realizing I was working a program. I think we all have that potential, and I think everyone's different. I don't think negatively necessarily of Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous, right? I'm not the most educated person. I don't have all the right answers. If it works for you, it works. And that's, at the end of the day, that's all that matters, is what works for you. I didn't want to have a dependency on meetings and such. The reason I say that is when COVID had happened and they shut down AA and NA and a lot of people had nowhere to turn to or nowhere to go, I didn't want that. That was something that was kept in the back of my head at all times, is what if I go to these meetings and I become dependent on them and I'm not able to find a way to take care of myself or cope or work on these things by myself or get through these, and I depend on people and I'm not able to see these people, period. I think that was another driving factor in why I didn't really care for the meetings, is I wanted to find how I could heal and how I could better myself by myself. Like I said, I don't have all the answers. It worked for me. It might not work for everybody else, but I'm 666 days sober. I don't always talk about my sobriety as much, because when I started social media, that's all it was me talking about sobriety, me talking about trauma, me talking about my addictions, well, the upbringings. And as much as I do enjoy talking about it and sharing that and hearing other people's experiences on all those topics, I find if I sit there and I talk about it all the time, it eventually puts me into a negative space, and I hate being in a negative space. It's not fun for me. It's upsetting. It's uncomfortable. And I'm really happy with life. Like, financially, it could always be better. But emotionally, spiritually, where I'm at, even like with my tricep tendon healing still, life's pretty good. And I feel good about that. I get asked like about cravings too in my sobriety. What do I do? Those cravings are almost non-existent for me. It's very rare that I get a craving, and even then, it's not like what other people's cravings are. I might have a moment where I see someone drinking and maybe I reminisce or think about like a good time or a memory, but that's just it. I know that this motherfucker up here is playing games with me, and I'm able to shake that off pretty quickly. If I have a really negative day, I might think a little differently. Being this long without alcohol, it doesn't really have the same effect on me, or the control, that possessiveness. It's just not the same for me anymore. It's very different, and it's hard to explain. I have days where I feel weak, but not weak in a sense where I'm like, I could cave in and give in. That's never been on my like chest necessarily. I'd have to be like super going through the ringer to even consider that. Anyway, I just want to say thanks for listening, and yeah, 666 days sober. I wanted to get this while it was fresh. Take care, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day.